entire section of the tech issue, the hardware, gaming, science, and any other things that we want to talk about. It's our freaking show. We can say whatever we want, okay? So deal with it. I'm getting a little harsh with our audience. I didn't mean to do that, guys. I love you guys. You know something? You go online and you look on YouTube, and sometimes you get mad at the audience as a whole because of one asshole. And I'm sorry to everybody out there because I've done that. I've been like, you know what, man, I'm starting to worry about our audience. But my eyes were open. I went to QuakeCon this last week and just met a lot of the members of our community. I was actually absolutely shocked at how big our Quake Live. I guess the community there seems to be a lot of Tech Syndicate followers and a lot of Tech Syndicate just people who are on the forums and stuff. I met a lot of people and they tell me their forum name and be like, holy crap, like we met Master Chops and a few other guys, and so what's up everybody. But I cannot believe like how down to earth and like just sensible they are. You know, sometimes you picture nerds as being somewhat socially awkward, and yeah, there's some socially awkward stuff going on there, but I feel like a lot of the people, especially the guys who were there at QuakeCon, at least with us, we're more just like, hey man, good to meet you. Let's hang out. Let's play a game. I'll buy you a beer later if you want. It's like, no, I'll buy you a beer. We laughed and joked and you know, that kind of thing. So the audience, I was really, really pleasantly surprised at the audience that we have cultivated, Wendell. You guys are really cool. So anyway, speaking of our audience, let's take a look at the average Steam users' computer specs. This was compiled on May of 2014 here. So this is the list of, you know, this is basically just the graphics cards. And you know, before any of you guys start arguing, graphics cards are the most important things for games. You can take a really good graphics card and a mediocre CPU and get 80 to 90% of the performance that you would get with a much more expensive CPU and the same graphics card. So we're looking at graphics cards. Anyway, the first most popular here, GTX 660 speed. GTX 660 is a pretty damn decent. You can play almost anything at 1080 on medium and a lot of games on maximum at 1080. So that's pretty cool. And the second most popular is up here somewhere around the 580, GTX 580 or the GTX 760 range. So decently fast. And, you know, for comparison, let's scroll down here on this chart and take a look at the PS4 and the Xbox One. Yeah, look how small their little graphs are. They're sad little graphs. We need exclusive titles or no one will buy us. Oh my God. I wish we were faster. All right, and the way down here at the bottom, it's like Wii U being like, well, I've got Smash Brothers and Mario Brothers and Zelda and maybe some other IPs, and you know what? We've got Sonic games because, you know, Sega doesn't use their IPs, so Nintendo really, really, really just cashes in on every old school IP that ever existed. Like, hey, look, we've got all these old characters from Capcom games, from Nintendo games, from Sega games. We're going to throw them all into one game together, and they're going to do cartwheels. And like everyone's like, oh my God, Sonic and Samus in the same game or whatever. I don't know. I'm making things up at this point, but yeah, they're doing okay, even though their speed is about the same as a Radeon HD 4850. That's like what I would expect to have in my projector. It's that bad. I don't know. The new some of the new stuff coming out on Wii U is for the specs here, the rated specs. It looks better than what I would expect. So I don't know.
I was sort of taken aback by how far mobile gaming had come because, you know, we're looking at a GTX 880M, which is about 4.5K on this ranking, which is, you know, way ahead of the 3K and change of, you know, the PS4 and the Xbox One. So that's pretty impressive for a mobile gaming chipset.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I really don't think that we're far off from having a mobile device that you come home and just plug into a dock, and now that becomes your console. And I think that's really going to be the next generation of consoles is going to be mobile devices. If they can unify a few things, maybe that'll be the thing. I don't know.
We might have an upcoming video on using the Pentium, the super cheap Pentium, with, you know, an ITX board with integrated graphics, and using that for Steambox Big Picture. I mean, for practically nothing, you can take the Pentium and a motherboard and have a living room home theater PC that can stream from your gaming PC that works great, and it literally costs less than a console.
Well, you know, on that build, there's going to be some people out there who do not even have a gaming PC at all, so they won't have anything to stream to. So all you can do is just get a decent graphics card for 150. I don't know, 150 is about the cutoff point for pretty good graphics cards. 200 is where you get really good stuff. So if you guys can pull that out of the couch or sell, the tires on your car and just walk for a little while, get some exercise or something, then you guys can have a really good gaming PC and we can play some games together. Or you know what? Get a really crappy gaming PC, start with Doom, play Quake, play Rise of the Triad, play a lot of the games that we played this weekend at QuakeCon, and just forget about the graphics, just play the games and have fun, and maybe go through some of the experience. It'll be a history lesson, and then by the time you've gone through that, you'll have saved up enough money to get a graphics card, and then you can play, I don't know, whatever you want to play. I don't know. What's new that people want to play? I don't play new games, it seems, lately. It's sad. I played Titanfall this week for a little while. Never again. We talked about that last week, though. So, all right, enough of that. Let's talk about Main Gear's laptop. They have a laptop. It's 15.6 inches. That's the screen size. 15.25 inches. But it is a 3K display, 2880 by 1620. The other sports are pretty damned impressive as well, like a GTX 870M, 16 gigabytes of DDR3. And of course the i7 4710HQ, that seems to be the processor to go to for high-powered gaming PCs that are not crazy expensive. It's also got killer LAN. It's got 2 mini display ports and an HDMI, so you can run 3 monitors off of this thing. It looks pretty insane. Main Gear also makes some really sleek-looking devices. But the price on this is only $21.99. So, yeah.
It's actually not completely unreasonable. I mean, we've seen Ultrabooks that are, 2,000, and they don't really have the chops that this thing has.
It's not going to be as crazy as that MSI laptop that we looked at last week. I forget the model number, the GT72, or I think it's that. But the thing has 4 SSDs in RAID 0. Oh God, it's freaking ridiculous. But the read and write are right around 1,600 megabytes per second. It doesn't affect the randoms quite as much, but yeah, it's going to be super fast. But that one's also like over the $3,000 price point and is not 3K. So I don't know what's more important, a faster hard drive or a 3K display with a ton of options here. Oh well, this does have two 256 gigabyte MSATAs in RAID 0, so that is going to be probably close to 1,000 or so megabytes per second on the read and write. So that's actually, I don't know, this might be, I'm not sure which way I would lean. This way or toward the MSI?
I'm not really into the 17-inch version, but the 15-inch version, maybe.
Yeah, I may actually lean toward the Main Gear just because it's 15 inches. That's crazy. We need to call up some people at Main Gear and say, hey, what's up? This stuff's great.
3/4 of an inch seems a little insane, but I imagine this thing produces a lot of heat. If it's got like a 6-hour plus battery life, I could probably go for this.
I doubt it'll have that if you're playing games, but it may be in Windows. It'll turn off the GTX 870M and just use the onboard. Maybe that would be feasible. All right, let's take a look at this keyboard you linked over, the Keyboardio. This looks a lot like Kane's keyboard. I cannot remember the name of the keyboard that Kane uses, but it's like it looks just like this as far as the layout goes. Do you know of any keyboards that are like this? I'm sure Kane is going to jump in the comments and tell me. I wish I could message him right now because he's going to kill me.
There are several keyboards. The thing that got me on this is the guy that has designed this is a really hardcore guy. I mean, he's captain programmer, insane coder, does a lot of stuff. And in the video, or in the picture of the keyboards that he's tried, because he's tried them all, and there's a pile of keyboards, he literally has tried them all. But in the picture was a Model M ergonomic. So he actually had the split ergonomic version of the buckling spring Model M, which is incredibly rare. And it's like, yeah, that one's okay. It's like, wow, if this is better than that, then this is maybe something worth looking at.
Where did he get that? I'm not very good on ergonomic keyboards because I don't type correctly. I tried, and I think Mavis Beacon failed me. I couldn't do it.
You the Big Lots version of Mavis Beacon that was maybe not as good as it should have been.
Like, this is funny. Why should my index finger go sideways on the space bar? And my pinky is up here on Q? I don't understand. Why is it doing this, I think that was Mavis Bacon, but yeah.
The generic version.
I'm Mavis Bacon, and we're going to learn to type. Or I'm going to learn you to type.
If they had like a generic version of Windows that you could get at Big Lots, that would be amazing.
I went to Big Lots and I got Winders and Mavis bacon, and ruined my life. So, and look at me now. All right, let's talk about Blink. Blink is it's a new wireless HD home monitoring system, and what's unique about this is it's truly wireless because it has a battery. Now, my first thing that I was worrying about there was like, okay, it's got a battery, so you're gonna have to be like constantly replacing the battery on your surveillance devices. Well, no, this battery lasts for about a year. I don't understand how it can last a year doing this. So the video that it's recording seems to be pretty decent, yeah. And basically it's doing a lot of the features that we've already seen. I feel like a lot of things that are coming out right now are making a lot of the really professional features that you see on something like pfSense, or that you'd see on like what's the I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but the networking or the security camera software. It's open source stuff that you're using there.
ZoneMinder.
Yeah, it looks like they're taking a lot of the stuff that you see in those, and they're putting them into consumer routers and consumer security devices, and then they're letting you control it with your smartphone, and it makes it all bubbly and nice and easy to look at. You're like, oh, look at all the videos, and it also has temperature sensors, and it's got a built-in microphone so you can hear what people are talking about. But if these do work the way that they say they work, they're making these down close to Boston, it looks like. We should drive up there and talk to them a little bit. That'd be interesting. Anyway, if they work the way they say that they're going to work, this could be something pretty interesting for people who want to secure their home, because they're cheap as well. They made a specific processor that's just for this unit, that just does the the video processing or whatever. So if they actually do what they say they do, it could be interesting. But if they don't, well, I don't know. Maybe these things are made by the NSA so they can put cameras everywhere. Like, hey, let's dress up as a fancy Kickstarter campaign.
TechCrunch was curious and skeptical about this too, because we always like skepticism. And they actually updated their article, and they said that Blink's makers have confirmed there is, in fact, Wi-Fi in the camera and that no video goes through the sync modules. Instead, they say they have developed a system enabling the camera to remain on ultra-low power and be woken up by a module on demand to preserve battery life. So, that's maybe believable.
So they have like a sensor module that basically just looks for the movement, and then the camera's not what's looking for movement, and then as soon as they see movement, they kick the camera on. That's what essentially is happening there?
Yes, that would be my understanding as well.
Well, even then, that must be a hell of a battery life. Let's say you have, if you have constant activity and you want this thing to run all the time, then that's probably going to be a bad thing. But if you're leaving the house and you use the Android app to turn it on when you're leaving, and there's not a lot of movement, I think that's what they're anticipating. I think they're anticipating not a lot of activity when these things are turned on and activated by your phone. But if you're leaving it somewhere where you need to have it constantly monitored, it's probably going to be a bad solution for that. I guarantee the battery's not going to last very long. And it's going to be a frustrating thing if you especially if you put them like up in the corners of the room or up on the the near the ceiling or something. You're going to have to get up there and change them all the time. So
I run alarm wire. If they make this and it's optional for you to power it, this really wouldn't be a major annoyance to like buy this and play with it, and then it's like, well, you could wire it if you really want to and run it back to a central panel with a battery backup like a traditional alarm. That would be completely fine. That was one of the things that always frustrated me, that Honeywell makes these great door sensors and smoke alarms and things like that will run for years off of a very small battery. And there hasn't been, that I've found, an easy open source interface for those Honeywell sensors. If there existed that, there would be open source alarms on the market tomorrow, and that would be a hell of a thing to Kickstarter.
All right. Well, speaking of all this, whatever we're speaking of, I had a segue, and then there's like some music going on outside, and it's like, what is that? Someone's out there playing like a 80s keyboard riff on a piano somewhere outside. It's echoing off the water. I don't know. Anyway, so back into what I was talking about before. So now there is an open source router initiative going on thanks to the EFF. And what they're really looking to do here is, again, take a lot of the interesting things that we see in some of the nerdier applications or some of the nerdier software like pfSense, and they're trying to distill it down so that anybody can use it, and it's keep it secure but allow you to use it with a nice GUI, something that's non-threatening and that sort of thing. But it looks like a lot of the stuff on this list here that they have listed, yeah, that was good and redundant. But a lot of the stuff on this list here, it really does look like stuff that you can do with other alternatives that are just, have a steeper learning curve. So, I don't know. Did you see this article here on the EFF?
I like this project. If you're a developer, you should go contribute. Basically, they've done a proof of concept with something that's based on Cero WRT or whatever, and that only works right now. Their demo only works on the Netgear WNDR 3800. That's unfortunate because that's kind of a piece of crap.
That's a Netgear.
We should probably, help them out. If there are any developers in the audience, let's go make something that doesn't suck, that'll run on proper hardware.
Yeah, maybe we can make this work on the Linksys. Since we were promised DDWRT and it's still not available on the new Linksys.
Oh yeah, we got the new Linksys, and it doesn't work with the thing, so don't buy it.
All right, DARPA. How about some DARPA robot stuff? I love talking about robots. Robots are fun. Robots are the future. Get used to it. All right. That's DARPA's. Of course, they're having this robotics competition right now. Everyone's trying to build different robots for the purpose of going into emergency situations and helping. Well, they're also working on some humanoid-style robots, and apparently they're far ahead of their own schedule. So, yeah, humanoid robots. Here's one from. Here's just an example of one. I don't think this is a DARPA robot. It may be, but yeah, it looks pretty crazy. So humanoid robots, they're far ahead of schedule. I think in the next 7 or 8 years, we'll actually. The main thing that they need to improve, and DARPA especially needs to improve, is they need to improve the aesthetics of the robot. They need to come up with something that's, as far as the skin goes, that's just a little bit more realistic. When they do that, then it's going to get really creepy, to the point where when we get to the point where it's like Blade Runner, where you're not sure if someone you're talking to is synthetic or not. Of course, we need the software for that. You can't just have you'll know right away if someone is just there like going, computing, what? You'll know right away. But once we get the software there and give them a few more years, I think things are going faster than everyone thinks with robots.
I think that when video game characters are a little too realistic, it's somehow off-putting and unsettling.
The uncanny valley, right?
Yeah, the uncanny valley, and this is like the uncanny valley in real life. The Spielberg movie with the little kid robot, was it AI? I think it was AI.
Yeah, it was AI. Yeah.
The actors that played the adult androids, the makeup and the effects with that were just slightly off, and those were real human actors playing robots, and they just changed it just enough, and it immediately put those actors in the uncanny valley. And so watching their performance was unsettling, and we don't have the technology. We're not going to have the technology in the next 5 or 10 years to get out of the uncanny valley. So these things are always just going to be super creepy.
Well, when they figure that out, it's going to be an interesting place to live. The world, that is. All right, let's talk about commercial flights to outer space. So there's a mini shuttle that's been developed by the Sierra Nevada Corporation, the same corporation that makes the beer that we all know and love, especially Bigfoot. And the whole idea here is that you're supposed to drink a bunch of these and fly one of these into orbit. Oh, never mind. It's not the same. It's not Sierra Nevada beer, whatever. It's the Sierra Nevada Corporation. Anyway, they have developed this mini shuttle, and apparently it has passed all of NASA's, security checkpoints. So they've checkmarked everything on the list. So this could be pretty close to becoming a thing, like commercial flights to outer space.
Wow. Yeah. That's really impressive. I'm surprised that NASA would sign off, but that's really good.
Yeah. 3,500 tests were conducted here, but all the big tests were passed. So pretty cool. All right. I think we talked about these lane hovering trains in China. Did we talk about that ever before on a different episode of the Tech? This article just came out like a day or so ago, but apparently they are going to be a thing in China. Really, really crazy looking trains. And the way they work is they are, the train is essentially above the road, and beneath the train, the train runs on tracks that, I guess cover the entire road. And so the train can just go right over top of the cars. So instead of having to build bridges, the train essentially is its own bridge. Let me see if I can skip forward in this video and show you guys. Oh, come on, skip forward. Show us. There it is. Make it big. Yeah, there it is. You know how weird that would be? Like driving in your car in your rearview mirror, you see this giant, crazy looking train come up and just like go right over top of you and keep going. That'd be pretty interesting.
Or for the case of the truck driver that sees it in the rearview mirror, you freak out and swerve off of the road and into the embankment. Because this thing would never clear a shipping truck.
Yeah, well, there's emergency braking systems if they see a large truck or a traffic accident or something like that. It looks pretty funny. Wow. I think I want to get one. Let's get one and install it somewhere in Kentucky. All right. Let's talk about power efficiency. And since we're talking about China, I figure this is an appropriate time to talk about power efficiency. Germany has ranked number one for as far as power efficiency goes. And I want you guys to look at this list here on the screen. China, I've always thought that China was, everyone, well, at least the perception here in the USA is that China, everything they make is cheap and it falls apart and it's not made to last. And then the other perception is that it's dirty and there's lots of pollution and they're destroying the earth by sucking up lots of energy and that sort of thing. And yes, they are consuming a lot of fossil fuels, but here on this list, I guess they're very efficient. It's Germany, Italy, the EU. That's interesting. And then China. And then way down here at number 42, or not number 40, number 13, with a score of 42 is the USA. So yeah, we're not doing so hot on this list. And yeah, Germany, just going crazy with energy efficiency. I believe they're even exporting some energy to other countries. I think Norway is doing so as well, exporting energy. We've got so much energy, we don't know what to do with it.
I'd like to know how they calculated this, because China is burning an obscene amount of low-grade coal, which makes a ton of pollution, so I'm not really sure how that translates to efficiency.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, when I went over there, when you go into a place, like you say you go into a hotel room, almost every hotel room that we went into, the entire power in that room was off until you put your key card, like your door key card, into a little slot, and then the power, the AC, the TV, everything you wanted would turn on. So that was one way they were keeping things efficient. It seems like they had a lot of really intelligent ways to do things. LED lights were everywhere. They're doing LED street lights. They're doing a lot of things to bring down, just to bring down the amount of energy that they're using. Their carbon footprint and all that sort of thing may be a different story, like you just said.
So it's very energy efficient, but we're going to burn crappy quality coal to get the energy. But once we've got the energy, we're going to use it really efficiently. Okay,
exactly,
I'd buy that. That's probably true.
Yeah, it's like we're not using windmills as much as the next guy, but we're really doing a good job at preserving that energy. And more news from China. It looks like they're going to be building a particle collider, or a proton collider, that's going to be even larger than the Large Hadron Collider. So twice the size of the LHC, and they're thinking about building that in China. Here's a graph of how big they are going to be on the map, and they may start building this up within the next 5 years, and it's going to cost about $3 billion, and the Chinese government probably is going to pay all that themselves. I don't know how I feel about China having this, because it's getting information in and out of China is not the easiest thing in the world, but they're also not the worst place in the world to go. I mean, it's not North Korea or anything like that. Like when we went there, we had a great time. We were able to travel freely without having to have someone with a gun follow us around like they do, again, in North Korea. So it's communist, but not entirely closed. So I think they may actually be open to allowing international scientists come and work there, like Swiss scientists and German scientists and Finnish scientists, and that's pretty much all the scientists in the world right now, right? Do we even have any here in America? Some at MIT and some at where else? Northeastern, Northwestern, and where else am I thinking of? Carnegie Mellon. I don't know where. What's that?
Corporate megalomania has forced all of our scientists to seek greener pastures in other countries / planets.
/planets. I don't know. I'm curious as to what you guys think about China having I almost said an LHC, of China having a particle collider that size. I mean, it's probably going to be good for the science world as a whole. But does it being in China even matter for the science community? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think it's good that we have it. So I'll leave it. That's kind of my opinion. It's good that we have it.
China would spend the $3 billion if it meant they had access to the scientists that were smart enough to build it. It would be their own scientists to an extent, but it would also give them access to, there would be a lot of really smart scientists that would move there to work on the project. But also it's going to give them first crack at any of the research material that comes from it. And we know that this is a research gold mine from all of the stuff that the LHC has produced. The amount of science and things that will be useful, information that will be useful to materials science and corporations is going to be useful for 50 to 100 years to come from the data that we've already gotten from the LHC. So if you imagine the kind of data that we would get about, the structure of the universe and elements, and maybe we can find an island of stability and, future synthetic elements and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. All that stuff would be first crack at China. So China could spend the money to just have access to that, because that could be a tremendous source of power for them. So that's kind of unsettling to me, but I think that a lot of scientists would probably be happy to work on it just in that state.
Yeah, but would they share some of the better findings with the rest of the world? Would they share
Eventually, yes. I mean, it would benefit society, just in the short term or the long term, it remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right, let's check out this recent SpaceX landing. So they've got these Falcon 9 rockets, and one thing that's unique about them is they shoot up into orbit instead of just crashing back down and landing in the ocean like a lot of rockets do. These things have some, what do they call them, retro rockets. So they don't use a parachute, they come back down, and then the retro rockets fire, and it essentially slows the descent to almost zero, and then it touches down, like vertically. And it can do this in... they did this on the ocean, but the idea here is that they could probably do this on dry land. So they shoot up the rocket, and instead of having the rocket fall back down and then losing bits and pieces of it, having to make repairs and that sort of thing, the thing comes back down and makes a nice, smooth, vertical landing. And they've demonstrated this on land with other rockets, just not one of these. So that's the first step. And this article here on Versus.com says that it could be a game changer. One of those words. Anything that's really cool is a game changer these days.
Well, see, cool. So the reason this is useful commercially is because even though they did this over the ocean, it could land. So this is like an automated, think driverless car, but rocket. And so this thing takes off, puts something in orbit, and then comes back to the launch pad and lands perfectly intact, ready to be refueled. So we could fly these things into space all day long, and that is a cheap way to get stuff into space. You're basically looking at, cost of fuel and then a little bit. That's really incredible in terms of reusability, because, the reusable rockets that land in the ocean, I mean, yeah, they're reusable, but it's a lot of work to make them reusable. This is almost to the point where you just, fuel it up again and you're good to go.
All right, last science article for the day, and it's a supermarket in Sainsbury, and that's in the UK. The supermarket, it runs entirely on rotting food. So here's what they do. They take all the food that's rotting, and there's a lot of food. A surprising amount of the food in the grocery store rots. I know a lot of you guys go there and you see this bountiful, bountiful amount of food, just carrots and cucumbers and just it's a smorgasbord, guys. And you guys see all this sitting there, and not a lot of us take time to think, like, what happens to all the stuff that's not purchased? Well, the next day it sits there, and then the day after that it starts to look a little funky, and on day like day 3 or 4 or 5, depending on the veg, they're going to be like, all right, it didn't sell, we've got to get rid of it. We don't want rotting stuff sitting in our store. So a lot of people give it away to a shelter, give it to homeless, or just a lot of them, believe it or not, just trash everything. So what they decided to do is they decided to give it to a facility that can actually convert this into energy. So the food waste is converted into biomethane gas, and then they use that to power the store. And right now, they are the only store, I believe, in England, the only grocery store in England that is totally fueled by this recycled refuse. And they're completely now not connected to the grid. They don't need to be. They're running on rotting food. That's pretty wild. What if the entire grocery store industry could run on rotting food? It would save them a lot of money. They would be able to lower the price of their produce, because a lot of the price of the produce, they build in, I guess you're paying for all the stuff that's rotting too, because someone's got to pay for that stuff. They're not just going to throw it away and eat that money. They're going to raise the price of everything else. So maybe they could lower the cost because you're helping to pay for helping to pay for the electricity. I think it's kind of interesting.
I thought this was really, really interesting. It didn't make the cut, but this there was another article about a French company that was buying mangled fruit that didn't look normal. Like there would be a mutant carrot that was like 2 carrots, or a tomato that wasn't perfectly spherical, or a potato that looked like Franken potato. They would buy those kind of fruit because normally the supermarkets wouldn't sell those because people wouldn't buy those. And so as part of their marketing campaign, to be like, well, you can buy the ugly fruit for 30% less and give it a loving home. And that actually worked. Like people were buying it and going nuts and stuff in France and buying that kind of fruit. And so that really cut the waste. That's a good thing too.
I love ugly fruit. My favorite tomatoes are ugly tomatoes. So yeah,
it's just as tasty.
They're just ugly. Ugly fruit is fruit too. All right, let's talk about gaming. The new version of ScumVM is out. They've added support for 5 games, and this is kind of awesome. OpenGL backend, so that's going to improve a lot. I need to download this right now. Now I suddenly have the urge to go and play all these old LucasArts games. Now ScumVM, Scum is the engine that they were using to, I guess, make all these old games like Full Throttle and Monkey Island and Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. No. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Fate of Atlantis, I think, was before Scum, or am I wrong?
No. It was
Scum.
It's
Scum
Maniac Mansion, and Scum literally stands for Script Creation Utility for Maniac Mansion. And so this, LucasArts, which was originally spun up to be a tax write-off of Lucasfilm, whoops, it turned out to be successful. We came up with all these really cool games, and they're from way back in the day. And so ScumVM is a way to play those game files on modern hardware, including, you got Space Quest, Legend of Corandia, all the other stuff. It should be good. And so now it supports 5 more games, which are, just random games, but the OpenGL backend and the other stuff. So this is really nice. It's got improved sound in Loom and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, so that's really good.
If you can find any of these old games, or maybe you have them, I don't know where you could get these days, but if you have the CD-ROMs, it's pretty easy. You just take the CD images. You can even use the CD-ROM in your drive and load up ScumVM and play them, because they're not really compatible with Windows 7 and 8. I'm not sure what they're compatible with, but the compatibility is probably not going to be there, even if you're running in compatibility mode. So ScumVM is a very awesome thing for some very awesome games, and it adds functionality on top of that, like quick save and all that stuff that makes me happy to be a PC gamer. All right, speaking of being a PC gamer, what else you have?
Oh, Steam. Are we on to the next thing? The Steam music support?
Yeah, Steam music support. It's Steam music support is a thing now. You can play music right there in your Steam. Now, in order to take advantage of this, you need to go into your Steam settings in your client, and I forget where to do this, but you have to. Let me just click on this here, because you have to.
It's in beta right now.
Yep. So
it hasn't been enabled for everybody.
Yeah. In order to do that, you go to Steam. You click on Steam. You click on Settings, and then you go down to beta participation right underneath your account settings here at the top. That's a tab you want to have. Click on Change, and then click on beta participation. Typically, it's just going to say Steam beta, or it's going to say none, opt out of all beta programs, but you can select Steam beta update, hit OK, restart your Steam, and then it will say hey, you have a Steam update available, and it'll download the beta, and then you can use it. I'm just going to wait till it comes out for real, because I typically use Foobar for most of my music, but I am curious to see what this integration of music is going to be, if you're going to be able to buy albums. I'm not sure how this is going to work. If I could sell Zweihander on there, that'd be amazing. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to work or not, but you have to have a full-on music store? I don't know.
That would be amazing.
I mean, it doesn't really say much about what it does here. Is this just playing music from your hard drive, or is this like a full-on music store? I don't know. Maybe I do need to see the beta. I just don't like the Steam crashes here and there, and I don't need to have more crashes. So it doesn't really crash that much. I think it's crashed like once on me in the last month. All right. Linux support is now coming to good old games, and they're also bringing a lot of games to Linux for the first time. So they're adding Linux support to a lot of different things here. Also, a sale going on for Linux. You guys can go over here and get a bunch of Linux games for cheap, for like really cheap. Kentucky Route Zero is a bit pricey, but that's a pretty cool experience. A lot of these games are old school. Sturgeon Simulator's on there. Blake Stone, a lot of people like those click adventures. Rise of the Triad, the original one is on there. Holy crap, the original Rise of the Triad on Linux. That sounds like interesting fun. I think that was already on Linux though. Yep. All right, so there's that. Yep. Oh, wait a second. Rise of the Triad is first time on Linux. Wow. All right, let's take... Yeah, pretty crazy. Let's take a look at some gameplay footage from the upcoming Unreal Tournament game. And we've taken a look at the demo, but this is actually a level that's running. This is actually the gameplay. It's really someone moving around the world. If it would actually play, damn it, it won't play. I gotta turn my VPN back on so I can play this thing. Yeah, this is what it's like when you turn your VPN off. Comcast, go screw yourself. Well, you guys can go and watch this. I can't really turn the VPN back on while I'm, doing the show because we've got Wendell on connected here and all that stuff. So yeah, man, this really is bad. I guarantee you, as soon as I turn the VPN back on, it's going to work just fine. But yeah, it's a really long video. Gives you a lot of information about the game. You can hear some of the developers talk about what they're doing in the game, and you can watch some footage from an actual level that they're putting together. Holy crap, it's moving! Oh my god, it's... Oh, Jesus. Never mind. It's a fail. It's a failure. But I guess I've left the tab open, so I better say something about it. So Ariel is a game that some of the guys who say that they used to work with the Stalker franchise. So they say that a bunch of core guys from Stalker are working on this new game, and they have their thing on Kickstarter. The current Stalker developers, they're working on another game, like a sort of an open-worlded multiplayer post-apocalyptic thing. They're working on that right now, and they got really angry and were like, "Hey, this is not cool." And Kickstarter took down their campaign. So their campaign was suspended. And immediately, these guys decided to launch their own campaign here that looks just like the Kickstarter campaign. And here's the funny part. They're still claiming to be associated with Stalker. And I imagine some of those guys did work on Stalker in some capacity. They're being very clandestine about what they did with Stalker and who they were at Stalker. I don't see any information on here saying what they did. They could have been the marketing people or the mail clerks for all I know. And the other thing that's pretty interesting is almost all of their footage from the trailers that they have released is Stalker gameplay footage and Stalker cinematic footage. So I'm going to raise a red flag right now for everyone watching it. And I think this is a very interesting looking project because I like... I really do like this universe a lot, but until they present at least some footage on their own, and their defense is going to be like, hey, we just started this. If you read their website, it says that each of them, they're only asking for 50 grand, which is another red flag because it takes a lot more than that to make a game like this. But they say that they've poured their own savings into this, and they've been working on this for a long time, and they've spent a lot of their own personal money. But they don't have anything to show for it? What the hell is going on here? This is a red flag. I don't think these guys deserve any press. I don't think they deserve any of your money until they show some actual new gameplay footage from the game that they are creating. If they can show us that and not just like, oh, this is a guy in 3D Studio Max designing a weapon. I've seen that a couple times. Like, oh, look at Tim. He's making a gun. Good job, Tim. You made a gun. Stop using the Stalker assets. You guys are not making Stalker Part 2. You're making a new game, and it's going to, draw from the Stalker universe. That's fine. You can do post-apocalyptic. You can do something in Chernobyl or Pripyat or whatever. But come on, guys. Show us some footage before you ask for our money. Show us what you're making. At least be a little bit original. And, yeah, this is definitely a red flag for me.
I have a plan, and I'm going to compile some code, and then you're going to give me money. It does look a little... there's nothing here, really.
Yeah. All right. Oculus has started shipping their VR headset. Finally, for all the people who years ago paid money for the VR headset, they're going to be getting the $350 virtual reality headset very soonish. So, yeah. I just wanted to mention that. And I wonder how many of these are going to end up on eBay. It's funny what TechCrunch is talking about here. But, yeah. Who knows? So, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this episode. I'm not sure if there's anything else we should talk about or not. That's pretty much it. Did we do the Asus drawing? Yeah, we did it in the last episode. I think we're pretty well good for the week. You got anything else? Anything we missed?
I can't think of anything. I think we covered everything, maybe.
We covered everything that happened this entire week. That's it. This is all that happened this week. Nothing else. Nobody went to the market. Nobody did anything in Congress. I think a plane went missing again. We forgot to cover that, but we don't do that, do we? Is that technology?
We don't talk about things like man booted from Southwest flight and threatened with arrest after critical tweet.
Did that happen?
Yeah, that really happened.
You know, we could probably make a career just talking about stuff that happens in Florida. You know, like a couple has sex on the beach while eating baby in front of people, like that kind of stuff. We could probably make a career out of that. We should do that. I think there's more money in just talking about idiots.
I finally joined the Twitter.
Oh yeah, what's your Twitter handle so everyone can follow?
I think it's Tekwendel, TEKWENDELL.
Is there any underscores or is there any? Nope, all one word. Tekwendel.
Tekwendel.
All right,
That's
so everybody follow Tekwendel. That's anaconda sign Tekwendel. Anaconda sign is the A with the snake going around it. It's an anaconda.
I really hope I don't end up regretting this. I'm not a people person. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, now it's going to make it easy. I don't know. Now you're definitely on. Well, you're on the list, but now they've got another way to just post pancake recipes and stuff.
Yes, that is the plan.
Heavy-handed pancakes. I don't want none of these perfect pancakes. I don't know. I think I've been drinking too much. It's time for me to go to bed or go fix that printer. Yes. All right. We'll see you guys in the next episode. You guys will be there? I'm not sure if I will, though. How's that for
You'll be here.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. If you're not here, I'm going to have your robotic replacement fill in for you, but it's not going to be as lively or interesting.
I thought I was the robotic placement. Placement? I'm not a replacement, I'm a placement? Uh-oh. Robotic plot. Never mind.
Yeah, if you guys aren't careful, I'm going to do that for myself, so...
I thought that's what you've been doing all along.
The robotic companion, yeah. Oh, I haven't 3D printed the rest of it. I 3D printed part of it, but I haven't 3D printed the rest of it.
Well, you finally got a forehead printed today.
What is happening? I don't understand. If they can see my mouth, they'll see that the audio is horribly out of sync with the video. No. No.
Yeah, that's because the speakers are in your ears. It was the easiest thing. Oh, wait, never. All right, guys, we'll see you next episode. Bye.